Bonjour à tous et bienvenue. Je m'appelle Joe Mistro et je suis vice-président de l'Union française. Nous sommes très contents cet après-midi d'offrir un événement de la musique cajun. Good afternoon to all and welcome. My name is Joe Mistro and I'm the vice president of l'Union française. We are so delighted this afternoon to offer this free Cajun music event virtually. I realize that this event is happening less than a week after Hurricane Laura, and certainly our thoughts and hearts are with our neighbors in Lake Charles and the surrounding area. As a New Orleans organization, we understand the challenges and trials of hurricanes. Before we introduce the musicians, I would like to say just a few things about l'Union Française for those of you who are not familiar with us. L'Union Française is the oldest continually active French organization in New Orleans. We've been around for almost 150 years. Our mission is the promotion of the French and Francophone language and culture. We do that through cultural events such as this one and through our French language classes for adults. One thing I want to tell you guys is that a new semester of our French language classes is about to begin on September 8th. Our classes are very affordable and will be online through Zoom in the fall. Our classes have a small class size of 10 students or less. We have classes at every level of French, from absolute beginner to advanced. We also offer classes on French cinema and literature. You can find more on our website at l'unionfrancaise.org, and I'll put that link in the chat. We hope that some of you can come and join us for class this fall. Real quick, a few Zoom housekeeping tips before we start the program. For the best viewing experience of the event, I recommend that you put your screen on speaker view, which is an option that you can find on the top right-hand corner of your screen. That way you can see the musicians playing and they aren't lost in the jumble of Hollywood squares of Zoom. Secondly, the chat is open for you to type comments, and if time permits for questions at the end, you can send those through the chat. If you want to say something to the musicians that you're enjoying their playing or do applause, feel free to clap, and we can see that. There's also the reaction button at the bottom, which has a virtual clap that they can see as well. And now I'd like to turn this over to Alison Alsup, who is a member of the board of directors of l'Union Française, who will kick off the program.
Bonjour à tous, good afternoon et bienvenue. I would like to welcome our musicians today, James and Greg. In addition to preparing a selection of some of their favorite Cajun songs, they're also going to give us just a dash of Cajun history for some context, as well as share some insights into what makes Louisiana French so unique. Let me tell you a little bit about them. James de Roussel is originally from Lake Charles, Louisiana, with ancestries in the rural farming communities of Acadiana. He grew up listening to his grandparents, aunts, and uncles speak French as their first language, and hearing Cajun music at local church festivals. After studying Parisian French throughout middle and high school, and then forgetting most of it in the years to follow, James later rediscovered his love for Louisiana French through singing and playing traditional Cajun music. He currently resides in New Orleans with his wife Florencia and son David, and he works as a landscape architect, designing zoos and animal rehabilitation facilities throughout the United States. Greg Champagne has been playing traditional Cajun fiddle for 11 years. Classically trained on piano and brass instruments, Greg's fiddle experience began in North Louisiana, learning by ear from old-time bluegrass and Texas swing fiddlers. He later gravitated back to the Cajun music he listened to growing up in the river parishes, with two grandparents who spoke Cajun French as their first language. Greg is a praiser the St. Charles Parish assessor. He and his wife, Emily, live in Luling, Louisiana, with their two sons, Andrew and Daniel. James and Greg, bienvenue. C'est parti.
Merci beaucoup et bienvenue à tous. We're going to start off, well, first of all, thank L'Union very much for having us. They've been really supportive of our effort to keep Cajun music going in the New Orleans area. And we host regular jams at L'Union on Britannia. Though COVID has largely put a stop to that, I'm sure we'll be back in business as soon as we can. And but we really appreciate the opportunity to play some music for you today. We're going to start off with just a little primer on what Cajun means and how we ended up here. And so we've got a short slideshow to start that off. This will probably be just a few minutes before we get into the music. So Joe, if you want to go ahead and cue that up, we can dive right in. So I want to start by talking about, you know, how French got to the New World and how we ended up in Louisiana. And so the image on screen here is the region known as Acadia. This is northern Maine, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick. And so the French colonization of America began in the 17th century and continued on into following centuries as France established a colonial empire in the Western Hemisphere. Most colonies were developed to export products such as fish, rice, sugar, and furs. And as they colonized the New World, the French established forts and settlements that would become such cities as Quebec and Montreal in Canada, Detroit, Green Bay, St. Louis, Mobile, Biloxi, Baton Rouge, and of course, New Orleans. From 1689 to 1713, the French settlers in Canada were faced with almost incessant war with Great Britain. In the 1713 Treaty of Utrecht, which concluded the conflict, ceded the colony in Acadia to Great Britain, while allowing the Acadians to keep their lands. But over the next 45 years, the Acadians refused to sign an unconditional oath of allegiance to Britain. La prochaine, s'il vous plaît. Le Grand Dérangement, or the Great Upheaval, was the forced removal by the British of the Acadian people from the present-day Canadian provinces of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and northern Maine, collectively known as Acadia. La prochaine. In the first wave of expulsion, Acadians were deported to other British North American colonies. La prochaine. First wave, Acadians were deported back to Great Britain, to France, or to French colonies in the Caribbean. La prochaine. During the second wave, Acadians were deported again to various colonies, and from there, a significant number migrated to Spanish Louisiana, where Acadians eventually became Cajuns. In all, of the 14,000 Acadians in the region, approximately 11,500 Acadians were deported. La prochaine. Most of the Acadians settled initially in the Lafourche Parish area and the area around Bayou Teche, south of St. Martinville. The first Acadians arrived in Louisiana in 1765. Louisiana was under Spanish control at that time. Joseph Broussard led the first group of nearly 200 Acadians to settle on Bayou Teche below present-day St. Martinville, Louisiana. La prochaine. When the Acadians came from New Brunswick and Nova Scotia to Louisiana, they brought with them many beautiful ballads that told stories of bygone years. Many of these songs can be traced back to France, and many songs from France drifted to the Bayou and the Prairie region via Nova Scotia and New Orleans. These ballads are not widely performed today, but they were the basis of what is now accepted as Cajun music. The music of the Acadians in Louisiana in the 19th century was transformed by new influences, African rhythms, blues, improvisational singing techniques, as well as other rhythms and singing styles from Native Americans. Some fiddle tunes and a few ballads came from Anglo-American sources. The Spanish even contributed a few melodies, including the melody for J'ai passé devant ta porte, which means I passed by your door, which comes from a concerto for classical guitar. So we're going to end the slideshow there, and we're going to start off by playing one of a few of the older songs that exist in the Cajun repertoire. And we're going to start with J'ai passé devant ta porte, which is one of the older songs and kind of demonstrates the influence of different cultures in forming Cajun music. You pick it up. J'ai passé devant ta porte, j'ai crié ma part, ma belle, y'a personne qui m'a répondu. Oh yeah, yeah, mon cœur fait mal. J'ai passé devant ta porte, où j'ai vu les chandelles allumées. Croyez-moi que mon cœur fait mal quand il dit que la belle avait été gone. J'ai passé devant ta porte, où j'ai vu ton maman après pleurer. J'ai demandé quoi c'est les avait. Oh yeah, yeah, mon cœur fait mal. So that song, J'ai passé devant ta porte, is called I Passed by Your Door, and it's about a man who passes by his sweetheart's door and finds out that she's died. And this is going to be a recurring theme in Cajun music about sweethearts and so forth. That song is also has a couple great examples of linguistic differences between Standard French and Louisiana French. In the sense that he says, in one instance, he says, when I found out that you were gone, but he says, quand il me dit que ma belle avait été gone. So they insert an English word into the French. And you find that common in certain areas of Louisiana where they'll use English words and effortlessly insert it into the French. And so that's a little twist. Another one is they'll use the word après, which would understood to be mean after. However, in this sense, if you add après before a verb, it means you're currently doing that thing. And so you'll hear that throughout some of these songs. Whether après before a verb means that's actively happening right now. So I'll try to, as we go through the songs, point out some other linguistic differences that are unique to Acadian French, which if you travel to Canada, Cajun French shares a lot of linguistic quirks with Quebecois in the way that it differs from standard French as well. So we're going to play a couple more of the older songs here, and some of these songs, or at least the melodies that inspire them, date back a very long way. So I think what we'll do next is a song called the Bayou Teche Waltz, in homage to the area that Acadians originally settled on Bayou Teche. And we'll jump right into that now. So having a lot of these songs, the Acadian people initially grew up in mostly agrarian and rural communities. And so a lot of the songs center around lost love and heartache and akin to country music and a lot of other worldly genres of folk music in that way. So we're going to do one more very old song for you. This may be one of the older melodies in the Cajun music repertoire. It's called La Vieille Danse de Mardi Gras, and the old Mardi Gras dance. And it's thought that the melody for this song may date back as far as the 1600s and date back all the way to France. And if you've never experienced it, the Acadian country style Mardi Gras is very different from what's better known in New Orleans. The traditions are very different, but a lot of it centers around the idea of, the tradition originated in France with an opportunity for the commoners to make light of royalty and have someone pretend as royalty for the day and all the trappings that come with that. And in a sense, that tradition has continued in the rural communities of Louisiana in a different style than it is here in New Orleans. And so this song talks about the Cajun traditions of Mardi Gras, where riders on horseback in costume would ride around the town and collect charity from the residents. And they would all come together at the end of the day as a communal feast and celebration, make a gumbo, and just experience a sense of community. So this song talks about all those traditions. Les Mardi Gras sont bien nés tout partout, tout le tour de Moyeux. Ça passe une fois par an, demander la charité. Quand même c'est une patate des gratins. Mardi Gras sont sur un grand voyage, tout le tour de Moyeux. Ça passe une fois par an, demander la charité. Quand même c'est un peu maigre, toi que t'en mailles. Capitaine, voyage ton flag, allons chez notre voisin. Demandez la charité pour nous bien rejoindre. Nous bien rejoindre, oui, au gumbo ce soir. So you hear that song played repeatedly at Cajun Mardi Gras. It's a favorite, and it's a very different song in terms of the Cajun repertoire and its style, and as I said, a very old song. So we're going to jump into sort of some new phases of the music here. Give me just a moment. So while Cajun music evolved from the time Acadians arrived in Louisiana to the present day, in the late 19th century, accordions came into the Cajun repertoire, where initially Cajun music was basically comprised of string instruments, with the fiddle being the primary instrument. But in the late 19th century, an influx of German immigrants into Louisiana introduced affordable accordions that quickly became part of the Cajun repertoire. And so you can obviously today hear a lot of accordion music. Accordions are heavily associated with Cajun music, but that wasn't always the case. So in about the 1920s is the first time that Cajun music was recorded. The song Allons à Lafayette, Let's Go to Lafayette, was the first Cajun song ever recorded by Joe Falcon and Cleoma Bro, who were a couple that played Cajun music. So while women were discouraged from playing music at that time, it's interesting that a woman was integral to the beginning of commercial Cajun music and part of the first recording. And so with recording, standard versions of songs began to emerge, whereas folk music traditionally has been handed down, by ear. And so songs change over time. So it wasn't really until things began to be recorded that standard versions of Cajun songs began to come into vogue. So we're going to play a few more songs from the sort of earlier era of Cajun music. And I think that we can start with a song which later became known as the Cajun national anthem. It's a song called Jolie Blonde. In later years, in the 40s, it became one of the first and only national hits by a guy named Harry Choates. But it's a widely known Cajun song, perhaps one of the more famous. And so we're going to play that waltz called Jolie Blonde for you now. Pretty Blonde. Jolie Blonde. You will rarely hear a Cajun band play and not play that song. So we may have to take a couple breaks throughout the show. The humidity, as is often the case, is going a little crazy right now, and the instruments tend to jump around in and out of tune. So I think we can maybe get through another song or two. Or
yeah.
All right.
You buy popcorn?
Yeah, we can do that. So this is a song. You got it in G.
C.
Okay, we might have to put that off then.
Yeah.
So one of the great things about Cajun music and folk music in general is that there's an understood arrangement to the music. A lot of the songs are somewhat standard, or at least understood, and so you can play with people that you've literally never played with before and have a great time and get a great sound. And interestingly enough, while Greg and I have played a lot before together, because of the coronavirus, we actually haven't played together in about 8 months. And so while we're admittedly a little rusty, it's nice that we can just jump right back in and maybe work out some kinks. And so, yeah, it can be a challenge, but it's one of the great things about Cajun music and folk music in general. And I see Rob Roden comment there, says, can't wait for the jams to resume at Lunion. And I agree. We're all looking forward to those jams getting going again. It's such a great community and a great time. And we'll all get through this and be playing again together soon enough.
Do you want to
do Madeleine?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to play a song called Madeleine. It sounds, if you understand the lyrics, it sounds like a real sad song. Oh, Madeleine, you slept outside last night. You slept outside in the big fog. Legend has it as just about a girl who missed curfew and they locked her out the house.
Play first chorus. Yep. You want to kick it off?
Madeleine, Nomadland. What do you want to play, Mr. Greg?
Let's see. What's on your list? What you got next?
Pick a good waltz.
Oh, we in the bulk list here now.
We're in the bulk list.
All right.
We got a very loose set list put together, so we're just playing whatever strikes our fancy at the moment.
We didn't do the tracks on my buggy yet, right?
We can do tracks in my buggy.
Perfect.
Play that in C or G?
G.
All right. So this is a song called Tracks of My Buggy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the last verse in English to give the English only speakers a little flavor of the story, because it's a pretty clever song. And one thing I like about Cajun music is while a lot of the songs are sad, and not all of them, but a lot of them, a lot of songs work in a little bit of humor if you're listening for it. There's some clever lines and some good jokes. And I think this is one of those songs that's got a little bit of that. J'avais tout travaillé, tous les soirs dans mon bouquet. J'avais pas une idée d'arrêter. Et quelque chose qu'arrivait que changeait mon idée. J'ai vendu mon vieux cheval et mon bouquet. Elle a suivi les traces de mon bouquet toute la nuit. Ma femme, c'est pour ça aujourd'hui ma famille est tout cassée. La flamme sur les traces en boguet. Tracks of my wagon all night, and that's where she found me doing wrong. And that's why today my family is all broken, and I blame my old horse and my wagon. So most Cajun songs are going to be divided into two categories. You have waltzes in 2/3 time, which is what that was, and then you have two steps, which are in 4/4 time. Both are great for dancing, different styles of dancing. And so after Cajun songs began to be recorded in the 20s and 30s, and Cajun music was very popular regionally, and the accordion was introduced, house dances were very popular, where Cajun musicians would go to somebody's house, the community would come, there'd be a community dance. They became known as Fais. And so if you hear Cajun people say when they put their kids to sleep, go dodo, from dormir, to go to sleep, that was the origin of Fais dodo. They wanted the kids to go to sleep so that they could go out dancing. So interestingly enough, although the accordion came very popular after it was introduced and became a standard part of Cajun bands, World War II played a big role in the development of Cajun music, in that most of the high quality, affordable accordions were German made. And so in World War II, to support the Nazi war machine, many of those accordion factories were converted to the war effort. And subsequently, later in the war, many of those facilities were destroyed in bombing campaigns. And so the accordion kind of fell out of favor for several reasons with Cajun music. Not only were they harder to get, it became rare. And then it wasn't until well after World War II that accordions began to be imported again, that Germans factories started making accordions again. And part of that shortage is what spurred an interest in Acadians making their own accordions here in Louisiana. We started a great tradition of accordion making, and today some of the best handmade accordions are made right here in Louisiana. So those old German instruments are now very highly prized collector pieces and quite rare. But after World War II, the accordion made a big comeback into Cajun music and remains a fixture to this day. So we're gonna jump into a few other songs here. I hope that if anyone has any questions, they will submit them in the chat, and we're gonna take a short break here. Maybe Allison, I don't know if this is a good time. If anybody has submitted any questions or anything, we're going to take a short break and make sure we're staying in tune here. And in the meantime, if you want to step away for a cold beverage or something, it's probably a good time to do it. And if there's anything in the chat that we can respond to, we'd be glad to do that. So we're just going to take just a minute to check our tune.
Yeah, mute.
I see that we have people from all over the country watching our Cajun music, which is awesome. So happy to see that. Welcome, bienvenue. Everybody is always welcome here in New Orleans and Louisiana. No one is a stranger. So thank you for coming. This is also being broadcast live on Facebook. So if you have any friends, tell them to come tune in for the last section of this. If anybody has any questions about l'Union Française and what we do, I'm happy to answer those. If you want to put those in the chat, I've been responding to some of you guys in the chat. I'm happy to do that. Again, we're starting a new semester of classes on September 8th. Our classes are super affordable. Our classes that typically meet once a week, these will all be done remotely on Zoom this semester. And our classes meet typically once a week. For those once a week classes, that price is $140 for the semester, which is, I believe, 14 weeks of instruction. So it's a fantastically affordable and available. We have every level from beginner to advanced. We also have a wonderful film class. We have a fantastic teacher who is Swiss-born with French parents, and she's a huge cinephile, a French cinephile. And so she gives this wonderful film class a couple of times a month on Wednesday evenings. And again, that'll be done on Zoom as well. And discusses films, looks at themes of films, looks at different directors. Highly recommend it. We also offer French literature classes. So if anybody's a little bit more advanced and wants to read some literature in French, we have those, I believe, on Saturdays at noon, again on Zoom. So yes, lots of wonderful things that we're doing, and you can check out everything we're doing on our website, l'unionfrancaise.org. We also, one more free thing that we do is on the first and third Wednesday of every month, We have a virtual table française where people just come from all levels of French, from all over, and practice speaking French and having conversations with everybody. So please join us at some point. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wanted to just echo that. The French meetup is fantastic. There's really no necessary to have a formal background. We have all sorts of levels of French. And just like today's show, we have people tuning in from all over the country and even Canada, people who really have a love of French and are coming at the language from all different levels, all different places. So please feel free to join us for those free events. It's a wonderful way to be able to bring French and practicing French language and spreading French culture into your everyday life.
All right. I think we managed to get back in tune in spite of the humidity.
Yeah, it got hot on us.
Good to go. So while Cajun music was really popular in the years around World War II and following World War II, it started to fall out of favor because the state of Louisiana and the influx of Americans from other parts of the country resulted in a discouragement from Acadians speaking French. They were discouraged from speaking it in school. In fact, my mother was of a generation that the children would be reprimanded for speaking French. Reprimanded is the polite word, for speaking French in school. And while French was her first language, and that's what they spoke at home, she learned English when she began going to school, and then came home and taught her family English. And so Cajun and speaking French was looked down upon for a long time in Louisiana, and it resulted in a diminishment of speaking French and so forth. But starting around the 1960s, there began sort of a revival of Louisiana French and Cajun music in particular. And there was a great man named Dewey Balfa, who was a Cajun fiddler. He was a farmer and a great Cajun fiddler. And he was invited along with some of his fellow musicians to play at the Newport Folk Festival in New England. And they got such a great review, a standing ovation, that that event alone created a greatly renewed interest nationwide in Cajun music, and sort of began a golden era of Cajun music and the recording of Cajun music. And so we're going to play a song that Dewey Balfa wrote after they returned from that Newport Festival. And this song is about their experience at the Newport Folk Festival and the friends they made. And we will play that for you now. It's a lovely song. You don't hear a lot of Cajun bands play it because it's not a historic kind of traditional part of the repertoire, but it's a great song written by Dewey Balfa. And I think it's a lovely waltz. It's called the Newport Waltz. café entre des bons amis. J'emmènerai à tous les cajuns. Si tu veux un bon temps au festival. Newport Waltz. That song says we went to Newport. We had a great time, made a bunch of great friends. So I want to tell all the Cajuns, if you want to have a good time, go to Newport.
It's Connecticut, right?
Connecticut? Yeah, Connecticut. So apparently all the good times are to be found in Connecticut. So we should probably play a two-step.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yep. You Port Arthur blues?
You sing that?
I don't know. I just do instrumental.
All right, we're going to play an instrumental. Give the voice the rest.
Yeah.
G&D?
Huh?
G&D. I'm having trouble getting into my head.
C.
Play a few bars for me.
C, G. Yeah, that's it. You got it. D and G.
C and G.
Oh, yeah, there you go. C and G.
All right. Port Arthur Blues. So a lot of Cajun songs are either named after women or named after a place. And so that was the Port Arthur Blues, named for Port Arthur, Texas. But you hear place names come up again and again in songs. And it's usually because that person wants to leave where they're from and go to this other place, either because there's a good time to be had or because that's where their sweetheart's at.
That was that song particularly. I learned that one from. I remember it well because I've learned it from Hadley Castile in person. He died maybe 2 years ago, but we had the privilege of learning that sitting next to him. He just played and taught me. It was wonderful. So great Cajun fiddler, one of the best.
A legend, absolutely. Well, what do we think? This is good. It's 5 after, so we got probably another handful of songs left. If anybody has any questions about anything we've played or anything like that, please put them into the chat, and we're going to try to save a few minutes at the end here for any Q&A or any kind of feedback you might have. And just want to thank Lunyon for having us and doing this. And it's good to be back with the community, even if it's virtually. And on that note, I just encourage everyone to support l'Union. They are the oldest organization in New Orleans supporting the French language, and they do a great service to the community, and have great teachers, and it's a great community unto itself. So any support you can offer to them is greatly appreciated.
Who the Kaplan was?
Yeah, so we're going to play another song with a place name, the town of Kaplan in Cajun country, and this is the Kaplan Waltz.
I have it now.
Yeah. Valse de Kaplan. You do Mon Vieux Wagon?
Yeah, sure.
Is G and D?
C.
Oh, C and D. There's a song called Mon Vieux Wagon, My Old Wagon. You gonna sing?
Oh yeah, I'll try
right.
it. I'm gonna try.
Trying to get Mr. Greg to
Don't
sing.
judge my French.
le wagon. Well, what do you think, Allison? Maybe a couple more? All right. Think about Tige Noir.
Oh, yeah, yes.
All right. Yeah, that's C, E minor, F.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a song called Tige Noir, which means little dark eyes.
All right. Right?
Yep. Ce matin, je m'ai trouvé assis sur mon lit. J'ai pleuré avec un cœur aussi cassé. J'avais rêvé à mes chats Tige Noir. Elle est partie à jamais tous les voir. Après-midi, j'étais assis dessus ma galerie. Après ce que le soleil, après ce l'ennui et j'attends mes chats Tige Noir. Elle est partie à jamais sans revenir. Ce matin, je m'ai trouvé assis sur mon lit. J'ai pleuré avec un cœur aussi cassé. J'avais rêvé à mes chats Tige Noir. Elle est partie à jamais sans Tige Noir, one of my favorite waltzes. Well, I think maybe we'll finish it up here with a two-step, leave y'all on a high note, and maybe leave a little room if any Q&A did come up. And so we'll do something lively here.
You do the Blue Runner?
We can do that. I was
Yeah.
gonna say pom pom, but we can do Blue Run.
Well, I got that in C. I know you said you should write in C.
Oh yeah, I can't sing that. See.
Okay, yeah. So we haven't played this much before. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, what were you thinking?
I was saying I do pom pom. C and G.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, let's play Blue Runner and well, let's throw an extra one in there. Let's do Blue Runner.
Oh yeah.
What am I?
C.
All right.
C, and then there's a G in there somewhere.
All right.
Yeah.
Great thing about folk music.
One chord.
By Pom-Pom.
Yeah.
C and G.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right?
Nah, that's not what I got.
Okay, maybe we'll do something else. Figaro.
That's it. Yeah. We're in there. Yeah, we got it. Okay.
All right, give me one sec here.
You got to put the lyrics.
Some of these songs can be a mouthful.
Who wrote this one? By you, Pom Pom.
I don't know who wrote this song, but it's a very popular, commonly done song.
Dio
You never
Menor.
wrote
Was
it?
it Dio Menor?
May have.
I don't know.
Everybody does it.
Everybody does.
Yeah, it's hard to know who wrote some of these songs because everybody does their version of it, and you know you got to look way back to see who really wrote the song. But the song's called "Bayou Pom Pom," and it's about an imaginary bayou, as far as I can tell, someplace far away.
Yeah.
Where?
The only thing I know of Pom Pom is with the egg sacs on the crabs.
Okay.
Well, I never heard about it, but I don't think there's a bayou.
If anybody knows what Pom Pom means or where Bayou Pom Pom is, please put it in the chat so we know.
Ira Lejeune, yeah.
Yeah, in the chat, we have heard of Ira Lejeune. Ira Lejeune was considered one of the greatest accordion players and Cajun musicians of all time, and was tragically killed at a young age, changing a tire on the side of the road. And but he left a great musical legacy, and a lot of the songs that you hear were written by him or popularized by him. And for all I know, I wonder if the reason for the chat was that maybe Bayou Pom Pom was written by Ira Lejeune. It's very possible.
Yeah, somebody asked if we heard of him.
All right. James and Greg, if you don't mind, I would like to be able to ask just a couple of questions. And then I was hoping that you might leave us off with one more song. What do you say?
We'd love to.
All right. So we had Bonnie, a question from Bonnie, who's following us on Facebook. James, I think you had said that your mother was discouraged from speaking French in school. Is that right?
That's right.
And she was writing that she was under the assumption that that had happened or that French had been discouraged quite some time ago. Do you know what years approximately that would have been for your mother when she was being told not to speak French?
Yeah, so at the risk of divulging my mother's age, which I know is the faux pas to divulge a lady's age, but for the sake of education.
You know, a little vague, a little vague.
And if this is Bonnie Lewis, Bonnie's one of my bandmates in Les Bons Amis Cajun band. Hi, Bonnie. My mother, this would have been, if it was elementary school, this would have been in the before mid-century, so 1940s. But I think the sort of discouragement of French began in the 19-teens, and I believe in 1921 was when the French language was rejected as an official language by the state of Louisiana at a legislative level. But the discouragement of French began in the 19-teens, I believe, and continued through at least the 1940s, probably into the 1950s or 60s, if I had to guess. But as for my mother, she would have been in that school age in the around 1950 or so, at the time when that was occurring.
Okay. So many people have. Oh, yeah, Greg, go ahead.
He served in World War II. He was about 20 when he went to serve, and so they would tie him to the boiler at the schoolhouse if he spoke Cajun French. Him and his wife, but my grandparents. So that was, I guess, in the 20s.
Okay.
They had like late 20s, early 30s too.
Wow.
They would tie you to the boiler.
Wow. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Along those lines, and hopefully times, have changed. Do you find that there is more interest in French language and Cajun history among younger generations? Are you seeing any of that?
I feel like there has been a resurgence, even since the, I'm 42, and I think, even in my lifetime, it feels like in the past 20 years or 30 years or so, in the 90s, I feel like there was a big increase in interest in Cajun culture among younger people. Cajun bands started to become widely popular in Louisiana, Louisiana music. And I think the music is a large reason why the language has any chance of being preserved, frankly. And I think that was also when a lot of schools started offering French immersion in Louisiana. So I feel like there has been an increase in interest among the younger generation in not only Louisiana French, but in Louisiana French music over the past 20 or 30 years, which I'm very happy about. And you see a lot of young up and coming Cajun musicians, even as young as 10, 12 years old, taking up the accordion, taking up the fiddle. I go to jams all over the state when I'm able to, and you very often see young musicians as young as 10 or 12 sitting in with bands, playing fiddle, singing in French. And so I think that's the case. Greg?
Yeah, I've been a long time since I've been to any other jam since, besides what Union does. But yeah, I think the music, he's right. The music is the reason the language has a chance to stay alive, because it's so unique, and I think it speaks to people in a different way. Just Cajun music just speaks to everyone. And I don't know why, but I think it does, and I think it draws people to the language.
Well, I'm going to give you just 1 minute to think of a why there, Greg, because you anticipated my next question. So I'm not going to let you off so easy.
I can't. I just don't know it. But you hear a two-step, and with the bass, and if it's in time, you can't help but tap your foot. And I don't know what it is about it though.
It's that addictive beat, right? Do either of you speak Cajun French with any of your relatives today?
We don't. At least I can't speak for Greg,
No.
but I don't. As you said at the beginning, I grew up hearing my grandparents and my aunts and uncles speak Cajun French to each other, mostly when they were talking about something they didn't want us to understand. And so obviously I became curious, and then I studied standard French in school growing up for several years. and subsequently forgot a lot of it through just not using it, and then relearned it through the music, and the French came back quickly once I started doing it through the music. But I don't speak French regularly with any family members. Even my aunts and uncles, I think, who could still speak French, don't speak it often, except perhaps to each other. And frankly, I don't hear it a lot, even when I'm traveling in those parts of Louisiana where there's still a fair number of native speakers. You just don't hear it a lot in daily use.
No, and I think it survives with just lingo, things that you don't know how else to call it, so you call it the Cajun French word that we just grew up learning. And it's English. Everyone speaks English, but every once in a while there's a little Cajun French word thrown in as, a canal is trenasse, something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of words of Cajun French origin that are still used as common slang. And growing up, we had certain words that we used that it never even occurred to me that they were of French origin, because it was just what we said. Gras was something gross, or the stuff you scrape off the bottom of the pan when you're done cooking, and it was just gras. I never really thought, oh, that's a French word. And I'm sure I could think of other examples, but they just became part of the vernacular, and we used them in English, and not until much later did I really give conscious thought to those are of French origin.
All right. Well, one last quick question, and then I would love for you to finish us with a song, if you wouldn't mind. Une dernière chanson. So, a question: if you could just use one word and sum up what Cajun music means or feels like for you, what one word would you choose?
It's a good question.
It's a really good question.
I know, and I didn't prepare you for it in advance, so you actually have to think on your feet.
I want to steal Robert's answer, but I can't. I saw it come up on the screen. Heart. That's a good answer.
All right.
Cheating. I was going to say alive. Lively.
Okay, mes amis, would you finish us off with une dernière chanson?
I answer your question with heureux, because when I play Cajun music, it's my happy place. No matter what's going on in life, if I can get together with friends and get lost in the music, doesn't matter if it's a sad song or a happy song. Everything else just goes out the window, and you're in the moment. And so for me, it's my happy place, and je suis heureux.
All right.
All right, we're gonna play a song called Tigalo pour Mamu.
Yeah. You want to give me the rhythm start? And I'll just kind of.
Yeah. J'ai acheté des carnets rouges pour l'été, baignade de l'hiver pour la vieille. Tickle up, mama, j'ai venu mon team live, can't you? J'ai acheté des carnets rouges pour l'été, c'est sûr que du café pour les vieux. Tickle up, mama, j'ai venu mon team
voler pour 15 sous. J'ai acheté des candis rouges pour les filles, mais il y a des ribans pour la vieille.
Tigalo
Thank
por
you.
mamu. Thank y'all so much for having us today. It was a great way to force us out of the house, play some music, and see some familiar faces is great. And we're getting invaded by little ones at the moment, but a good timing. And again, Joe, Allison, thanks so much for having us, and thanks to everyone who tuned in. And hopefully we'll be doing this in person sooner than later.
Thank you so much, Greg and James. This was wonderful and brought, I think, a smile to everybody that attended and is watching us on Facebook. Thank you to everybody. Check us out at l'unionfrancaise.org for upcoming events. We will be sure to have some more events like this one. And bonne soirée à tous.